Yo, what's up guys? Nandra here. Welcome to another video. Now for this video we're gonna be talking about like things or just talking about like evaluating cards and like trying to figure out okay, what makes a card good, what makes a card bad. Now, a lot of times and this is particularly interesting to me is that like a lot of times like I usually tend to get like a lot of like my card predictions right for the most part. I think I've only missed maybe like 5 or so that I've actually like participated on. But one thing for me is that like Reddit will usually like get cards like massively like incorrect in whether or not they will or won't be used, such as for example Hero of Antiquity versus Fangblade Slayer, or say Civil or Robbers, which is my personal favorite because because of reasons. But yeah, like. And so today we're just gonna be talking, and I'm just gonna be like giving you a few examples of what makes a card good and what makes a card bad. All right, so we're just gonna hop into this now. Oops. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into it, such as, for example, is it okay? So for Shadowverse in particular, generally you have like a few guidelines just because of the whole like the way like the evolve system works, as well as the fact that this is an attacker's choice based game. And so for the first one is going to be, does it actually do something on the board? Now there are a lot of really cool cards in the game that actually aren't played because they don't actually physically do anything on the board. An example of this is Support Cannon. Now for Support Cannon, you have to skip your turn 5, hope their opponent doesn't punish you for it before you can start trying to retake the board and accrue value. So while the card for the effect in and of itself isn't bad, like it's bad because it costs you so much mana. It doesn't actually do anything when you play it. It is an amulet. It's not a creature. And your turn 6 it has to be like absolutely like incredible for you to not die for having done that. Then you sometimes get cards that suck because like they just don't do enough. Glacial Dragon. So again, I used this card in a previous video a few months ago, just because it's a card that like I really like the artwork for it, but the card is actually terrible and will almost assuredly never see play. Part of the reason why I will never see play is because the body like is okay, like it does suffer from dragon attacks, but then you have like the fanfare. Okay, so for the fanfare, you deal 1 damage to all followers, whereas you have something like say Shenlong, who draws you cards. Now, in my opinion, Shenlong is a card that I'd much rather prefer to play over, say, Glacial Dragon. However, while Shenlong is slightly more playable, they both still suffer from a lot of issues. And in Glacial Dragon's particular case, part of why he'll never ever see play, even if he somehow had seen play beforehand, is because of this. Wrath Drake. Now, Wrath Drake for 2 mana less for 2 mana less and and 2 less stat points in that of 1 of HP and 1 of attack. You have the same fanfare, however, you have better scaling. Now, as Dragon, I'm sure you've all been there where you're playing the deck and you draw all of your 9 and 10 drops. You're just like, dance game. Well, what do I do? Like in Wrath Drake, it kind of fills that void a little bit because he can be played on 5, but he can also be scale into the late game, and that's something important that you want to have with Dragon. You want to have cards that are good early, but also scale into the late game. This is part of why you see cards like say Sybil, as well as say Zell in the past pre-nerf, why they were so good, because they do something early, they also do something late game too. All right, so for the next part, it's going to be. Alright, so I've already covered cards that cost too much, and also cards I just have bad scaling. Now, this is the next one. Okay, well, oops. Oh, okay. Oh, that's alright. I don't know what I thought. Oh, okay. Maybe I just spelled it wrong. Okay, there we go. Demonic Simulacrum. Alright, so for Demonic Simulacrum, it's a 2-mana card with the potential to become a 4/5 if you have 2 Evolved Followers in play. Now think about that for a second. When was the last time they saw multiple Evolved Followers in play on the same person's board, when that person was not just, straight up just like winning the game and just, snowballing out of their mind? Never, right? Yeah, right. So as a result, like, this is a huge part of why Demonic Simulacrum doesn't see play, because like he doesn't do enough if you don't like get the effect. And even when you do get the effect, you get the effect in a situation where it's basically win more. Now, win more cards are essentially cards that like where playing the card doesn't actually matter because you're just going to win the game anyway. A good example of this is is my go-to example of, say, Erd in Shadow on the turn 3 Erd, on the turn 4 Erd your attendant, and then get a Lich and then also get another attendant. Like, it's a pretty win more play, because that requires you to have a board. It requires you to see the attendant. It requires your opponent to not be the wiser and to not clear the first body, and just like, so it's a pretty win more. It's a pretty win more card overall. The next reason why you might see cards that might not see play is because what's this card called? Okay. They might be a good card, but in a bad class. Not a bad class, but in a class that can't really support it. Now, Mithril Golem is a card that, like, if it had been in Dragon, or rather, correction, if it had some really good like AoE effect attached to it or something like that, and been like a better Fafnir, it's a card that would have actually seen a lot of play, because like it's fairly reasonable, and that like if you cast enough spells, then you just get a giant nuke, and you can have like essentially additional copies of Baja, except this one will be a one-sided Baja. Now, part of why this card doesn't see play is because it's too unreliable. Like, well, it's a few reasons. It's too unreliable because it's a spell boost mechanic. You want to have it like it creates a sort of like it creates a sort of like paradoxical effect in which you want to have the card in your hand early, but think about that for a second. You're a class that's not Dragon that wants to have a 9-drop in your hand early. Thinking. And it's not even like a 9-drop like Daria that could be like cost reduced. No, like you're almost assuredly always going to have to pay 9 mana for this card in order to play it, and you're usually going to want to have it to be doing at least 4 damage. So you're going to want to have to cast at least 4 spells before you can actually like play this dude. And again, while the effect is really, really good and really, really cool, it just costs way too much, and it's just not in a class that can like really support it. The other reason why a card might be good but not see actual play is because there's a lack of actual cards that can actually support the effect. Now, in this case, we have Myth of the Underworld. Now, for Myth of the Underworld, this was like before I started like making videos, but I was actually super hyped about Myth of the Underworld, because Myth of the Underworld is similar to that of Fandral Staghelm from Hearthstone. And if you've ever played Hearthstone, then you know like how ridiculous an unchecked Fandral is, because you can go like Fandral into Nourish, you can go like Fandral Nourish Wrath or something like that, and you just draw 4 cards, remove something on the field, and you also get to ramp twice as well. Like, and that's just like a crazy tempo swing. Like, there have been games like won or lost on the back of, oh hey, well, my opponent played Fandral, I didn't have an answer, so I lost. However, with Mint, that's not quite the case, because like there aren't really that many good cards to support it, because like the biggest payout card for her is definitely Tyrant, but that's a 10 mana play in a class that I usually didn't even want to be going to 10 mana in the first place, because for most part, like, they're usually slow but kind of aggressive in the same sense too. The next reason is because people underestimate the card. Now, in the case of Hero of Antiquity, alright, so actually, no. Let me go ahead and give actual context here. So I don't say this to be mean or to be like derogative, but for the most part, from what I've seen of Sword players, a lot of them really like, smorking, going face, and so a huge reason why Hero was kind of like looked down on was because one, it's not a commander, it's an officer. Swordcraft really wants more commanders because you have Gawain, and Gawain reduces commander costs. So this is and Hero being at the mana cost that he is as a commander, that would have been ridiculous, because you could go turn 6 Gawain, get the rush, hit something, go down in like a 1-for-1 or maybe a 2-for-2, or go down for like a 1-for-1 or something like that, and then have Hero on turn 7 into Hero on turn 8 into Albert on turn 9, just like demolish your opponent. However, unfortunately, he wasn't like that. Additionally, he also can't go face the first time you play him, and that's huge, because a lot of times, I'm pretty sure we've all been there, where we're just sitting at 3. We have a ward. We have like a few wards, and we're like, okay, well they can't clear it with Albert, so we're just gonna win. And then Fangblade comes down and he's like, he's like slice and dice him, and you just like take the 3 damage through a ward and you just like die. And so I think a huge part of why he didn't see that much play is just because like people have I guess like biases on certain cards, as well as just like preconceived notions, because sometimes during reveal seasons especially, people are very inflexible in thinking, people in a weird way are like, they're either sometimes too inflexible, or sometimes they're thinking in like too idealist situations. A good example of this is Maelstrom Serpent. Now, for Maelstrom Serpent, like it was a card that I was like hyped up a lot during Tempest of the Gods, because it was one of those, like, you already knew how you're gonna do it, because you knew they had the Blood Moon, you knew they had the Belphegor, so you just like go like Belphegor on 4 or Blood Moon on, you could go either Belphegor on 4 or Blood Moon on 3 into like Revelation on 5 or something like that, into like Revelation on 4, Baphomet on 5 to get the 5 cost Maelstrom Serpent, and then you go Maelstrom Serpent on 6 plus Diabolic Train to get like your 20 worth of stats, just like kill your opponent. However, think about that for a second. How many cards did I just list in that scenario that you absolutely have to see? I listed like 6 different cards, right? Yeah, like that's super unrealistic that you get all 6 of those cards, and that's just like how you win. Like, and when you're not winning with this deck, like, then you're just kind of like losing, because like you're playing a bunch of bad cards to support one good card. That's not good deck building. Let's see. I'm pretty sure that's like every single example. I might have missed a few, but yeah, like that's some of the things. That's some of the mistakes that like people make. However, let's go and talk about things that you can do when you try to figure out if a card is good. The first one would be utility. Like what niche does this card serve? What exactly can it let you do? A good example of this is Oh, okay. I should know. There we go. Good example of this is Zombie Party. Right, so Zombie Party, it's a removal spell that also doubles as a board fill if you get the enhance effect. That's actually insane because it lets you play artificially more creatures in your deck that you're already playing, and that's just really good too because like it's a nice tempo swing. Like if you get the Zombie Party ticket to clean off something, you get a +3. That's insane. Well, really a +2, but yeah. Another example is it just better than everything else? Now Bahamut is a card that like will probably always see play unless he ever gets like nerfed or like banned or something like that. Or sorry, unless he ever gets like nerfed or unless he ever gets like nerfed or like rotated out of the format or something like that. And for good reason, because like he's a world-ending dragon that like he's a board clear that doubles as like offensive tempo, just because, you know, if you're at like 13 or less and you see the Bahamut come down, you're just like, oh shit, well I need to ward up. But if you ward up and you don't heal up as well, or sometimes even if you do heal up and your opponent has a clear for that, you can still die. Like I'm pretty sure we've all been there versus Dragon where you just, you know, they slammed the Bahamut and you didn't have an answer to clear out the Bahamut and you're just like praying, and then they just like make you cry and just like die. There are a lot of like good utility cards I think in the game, some of which like aren't really touched. All right, I'm just going much better. Okay, an example of this would be Polyroar. Like I always talk about this card, and it's just a really strong utility card because like, well, it's not so much utilities, it's so much as just like really strong win con in and of itself. Another card that's like this would be Revelation. Right, so Revelation is really strong in and of itself because one, it's a massive AoE. Like it's the single biggest physical. It's the single biggest effect damage nuke in the game, and it can be played for a cheap amount of mana as well. Like four mana, basically Themis is pretty good, right? Like yeah. So basically, like Revelation in this case, it does something better than almost like every other card in the game, minus say like I think like 1 or 2 cards, and even for those 2 cards, it's not like they're in the same class, which is another important thing to remember when you're like evaluating cards, is that you want to try to avoid evaluating a card using examples of a card from another class, unless they share like similar traits. What I mean by that is that like when it came to Ouroboros, I knew Ouroboros was going to be good because in Hearthstone there's a card called Anubarak, which is basically the exact same thing as Ouroboros, except Anubarak wasn't a class that couldn't support it, but Ouroboros was, and that was like really important. That they use like takeaways from like other games that you've played in order to kind of help you make these, in order to help you kind of like make these like opinions on like cards and whatnot. Let's see what else. For cards that are actually really good but aren't see played, let me go and like pick, I guess, like 5 or 6 that I can like talk about. The first one will be Pluto. All right, so Pluto is a card that's really good because it all right. So effectively, right. So the Pluto is fanfare, destroy an enemy follower, add its attack and defense to this follower's attack and defense. Now Pluto already has like +1, already has 1/1 stats. So when you play it and you kill something, especially something big, you've effectively just like stolen their creature. The best example of this they can use is when you clear something like, say, a Bahamut. Now Bahamut is the world-ending god for a reason. Like they're currently in the game. It does not exist even one thing that surpasses Bahamut in stats, except for Pluto that ate a Bahamut, because it'll be a 14/14 at base stats before Evo, and that's like really important. However, it doesn't actually see play just because like One, a lot of times in Shadowverse, you really want like cards that remove like multiple cards in play, just because like a lot of decks tend to use a go wide strategy. So Pluto, like it's really good in like Defender's Choice games, as well as versus decks that focus on like go tall strategies such as like Dragon. Another one. Ebon Beast Warrior. Alright, so Ebon Beast Warrior is actually a really cool card because it's a massive ward, and which Dragon does want a lot of. However, part of why he doesn't see play is because, again, he still has the same issue that some of these other cards that I've like listed have had, and that he doesn't do enough on the board, because like even though he is a massive board, like, and actually one of the biggest for his stat line, it's just that like. Right, so already when we play the card, you have to neg one yourself because you have to discard a Dragoncraft card in your hand. Thankfully, it's lowest cost Dragoncraft card, which is actually nice. However, that's still a relevant thing they have to take into consideration, because he doesn't actually do anything else. Like he's just a large overset monstrosity. Same for this card too, Undead King. Now again, using yet another Hearthstone reference, this card is basically almost the equivalent of that of Savannah Highmane, which is a card in Hearthstone. Now Savannah Highmane is 1 mana less for +2/+1 in stats. That's actually a relevant deal here, because like Shadow as a whole, they don't actually have like good 6-drop plays. Like their best 6-drop play for the first like 4 or 5 sets was Death's Breath, and they only just now got Odell, the black swan, or is it white swan? No, it's black swan. Yeah. So again, like it's really good card. It's just, you know, it just like costs one mana too much, and suffers like massive competition from say that of Cowie, from that of Ektar, and just, you know, just not being good enough overall. Another one, Hydra. So Hydra's issue is that he doesn't have enough HP to guarantee that he'll live multiple turns, because if he does live multiple turns, he's ridiculous, because, you know, suddenly he's a 7 mana card that represents like 10 damage. However, at 5 HP, he's most likely not going to live multiple turns, particularly because he doesn't have Storm, he doesn't even have Rush either, so you have to Evo him. And usually for Evo, I'm usually gonna be double trading, and he's usually gonna be so low that they can just be like revenge killed when he's done, and that's just not good enough sometimes. For Dragon Bond Mage, this card is a card that, like, it seems really cool because it is, because, you know, when you play a spell, summon a dragon. Now, a dragon is worth 6 mana, or sorry, it's worth 5 mana. I'm sorry, it's worth 5 mana. So effectively, if you play an Insight and you get a dragon, you've effectively gained 4 mana. And in the case of Rune, who has quite a few zero cost spells, that could be really crazy. But then you have to think to yourself, okay, well, how am I going to be holding this many zero cost cards in hand for this long in order to find this Dragon Ball Mage who if I only cast like 1 or 2 spells is who if I only cast like 1 zero cost spell with him is a worse Maelstrom Snakes, and then you run into a lot of like problems, just because like when we think of these cards, like you have to be able to find like realistic ideals, realistic situations and what you're going to be able to play it. Roland's another one. Like, Roland it's really good card until you remember that, like, for the most part, the majority of decks in the game, the they deal damage to you at like 4 or 3 to or at like 4 damage or 3 damage or less, and so for the most part, like the buff that she provides with the Durandal is actually usually mainly going to be for your creatures more so than your actual face, because you're usually going to want to play a lot of like ward type creatures in this deck, such as say Front Guard General and whatnot. And it's just one of those, like, it's really awkward because like the only class that it actually like affects to some relevant degree is that of Forest, who you're already kind of favored against anyway if you're a control sword and you have a lot of wards for the roaches to go through, and then Dragon, who can blow it up with Bahamut. Awkward. But yeah, like there are a lot of cool cards in the game, and to be honest, like trying to find what works and what doesn't work, it will take a lot of testing, and I'll also take a lot of I guess like good like common sense, as well as just like foresight into how you can like best use said card. Because there's always gonna be cards that like people just kind of like underrate, and then they suddenly turn to be like amazing. A good example of this is Tove. Now it's not the best example, but the reason why Tove was like underlooked was because like people thought that he was like restricted from attacking at like completely whatsoever if you didn't have the neutral. They didn't realize that they could like attack the next turn. They just had like regular summoning sickness without it. What else can I find that's a good card that like just doesn't see play? There's Hulking Giant, but Hulking Giant is actually an example of a card that's like overrated. Well, that was overrated, but it's now widely considered just be bad. The reason why he's bad is because like you basically do an all or nothing. You basically do like an all or nothing 100% like all in play, and that's bad because if it fails, you're gonna be in an awkward as fuck spot. Just because, sure, having a 6/6 hexproof dude is cool, but like he's still a 6/6 hexproof dude, and he can still die. I promise you, he can still die. However, the bigger he gets, the more cards they have to pitch from your hand. The less cards in your hand, the more reliant that you are on this guy sticking on the board and being able to one shot your opponent. Now, don't get me wrong, I've personally witnessed this happen like a few times actually, but just because this happened a few times doesn't actually make it correct. Like it's still just not actually that great. Especially now when there are a lot of like Bane effects and whatnot in the game, just try to like deny that from being like good. All right, but yeah, like I think now you guys maybe have like a general idea of what I mean. But when I say like you should, when I say that like identifying cards could be like, it's difficult, but I honestly think that's like well worth it, just because like if you can identify what isn't and isn't a good card and why, then they'll be able to get ahead of the curve and to be able to like figure out techs that are good before they're actually good. A good example for me is alright, so this is actually the perfect example of the fall, then the rise, then the fall again, then the rise of a card in this game. Now, when she was revealed, a lot of people said Dark John was trash, which, to be honest, like that just blew my mind, like completely just woo! Because Dark John to me is essentially a Breath of the Salamander, which is a very, very good card, on a body, which makes that insane. Because if we assume that Breath of the Salamander is 6 mana, because that's how it's currently costed, then you essentially get a 0 mana 5/5. Think about that for a second. A 0 mana 5/5. That is insane. Additionally, she is utility because she can be used offensively, she can be used defensively and whatnot. Additionally, Haven as a class, they usually don't play that many creatures unless they want to be playing creatures. So you don't really have to worry about the, well, what if I kill my own dudes thing? Because that's honestly like a fallacy. Like if you're killing your own dudes, they're making misplays because you shouldn't be in a position where you're like sacrificing your own dudes accidentally. But yeah, so initially, like I said, on reveal, she was considered to be trash. Then it turned out that she was good because obviously it's a very good card. And then for this meta with the neutrals and whatnot, she was considered to be bad again. But now she's actually considered good again, just because neutrals aren't really played as much. And the 2 damage AoE is still very nice versus most tokens in the game, just because most tokens in the game usually have 1 to 2 HP. So generally, when she comes down, she's usually gonna be getting like a +3 or +4, something like that, and that's just really nice. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. I think that this was slightly longer than I intended it to be. I think it was supposed to be like a 20-minute video. I'm pretty sure this was close to half an hour. But if you watched it and you enjoyed it, go ahead and leave a like. All these likes help, just because it gives me a better idea of what you guys want and don't want to see. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys